Okay, so now we're on to the descriptions, in the original descriptions in Brihat Parashara. And for Cancer, it's pink, moving in water, a Brahmin, vigorous at night, many moving legs, a stout body, endowed with Sattva, watery and back rising, is thought the crab sign ruled by the moon. So that leads us to the element of water, even though it's really tied up a lot with Kapha. When it comes to the signs, the water signs are feeling centered, basically. And it's the ability to perceive through experiencing a particular sense or impression. So in Jungian psychology, it sounds to me a lot like the sensate focus function, where it's through feeling. Yeah. It's through feeling, and there's another function too. It's not just the sensate.
Perceiving?
Perceiving. I think it's perceiving, which is the Myers-Briggs way of putting it, but it's all based on the same thing. So it's not necessarily through a thought. It's more through a sensation and an impression, a feeling.
Right.
But it's just a valid way of knowing as thinking is.
Mm-hmm. Just like a mother can always sense when something's off with the child, it's like.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or some subtle expression on a person's face, or fleeting subtle expression, or a tone of voice is something that the feminine will understand.
That's right.
And react to, and get messages from it, and then base actions on that, and not be able to explain it later. It's right. Like, well, how did you know that? Well, I don't know. It was just a feeling, but it turned out to be true.
Yep.
So, and then Cancer itself feels itself, and through that can become aware of all that is. Though what it accurately perceives is dependent upon how healthy it feels about itself, which makes sense. Like a person who is not very healthy, they will tend to read into things, what they're based on what they're feeling about themselves.
That's right.
So if they're angry with you, but they're not consciously acknowledging it, they'll see anger in you, or that you're expressing anger or feeling anger when that's not the case.
Yep. Projection.
Yeah, I'm sure we've all experienced that.
Oh yeah.
We've done that. Right? Except for you, Neeshee, right? You've never.
That's right. I'm pure.
Me too. I've never ever done that.
I'm like water element,
Right. So, do you have anything else you want to say about the water element?
Well, I think it's interesting that all the water signs are the Brahmin Rashis.
Yeah, and that's what leads into so that's what we're going to talk about next. The Brahmin caste. So you want to talk about it? Then once you start it, then.
Well, I think it's just that clearly, the water signs all the water signs aren't sattvic, are they?
Cancer and Pisces are sattvic.
But Scorpio is not.
Scorpio's Thomas.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that all the water signs are Brahmin caste. So that was clearly a very intentional association they were making between elements and caste. There's a very clear correlation with all of the signs. So why is it that the water element is the Brahmin caste? Well, I think that the image I was giving of the mother is something good to contemplate, because the mother freely gives. And in a previous video, I was describing how the disposition of the Brahmin is generous. It's willing to nourish something outside of itself. It's willing to be surrendered, to higher things.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a kind of self-sacrifice in the Brahmin that's like very noble, it's spiritual even. And, as I was saying about the mother and the child relationship, there's a lot of that going on. And Cancer is very much about giving of itself, nourishing from the reservoir of nourishment that it is. So I think with all the water signs, there's something about water that's about connection. And Brahmins are those who are connecting with spirit, connecting with the divine.
Yes.
So that to me is, Cancer is the sign that's the Brahmin that's connecting with the divine through feeling, at the heart, the devotee, the devotional aspirant.
Right. And also the way we perceive the divine can be through means other than through the mind, other than through intellectual, like thinking about it. It can be a feeling experience. Mm-hmm. And the Brahmins are associated with the spiritual, and they tend to do the kind of work that's directly related to that, like priests or counselors or people who are interested in the acquisition of knowledge for the sake of others, for the sake of alleviating the suffering of mankind.
Mm-hmm. Also, if you think about the idea of the water bearer, I'm talking about Aquarius. Don't get lost in Aquarius, but I'm just using that archetype. The water bearer is a Vedic archetype that relates to the myth of the churning of the ocean, which produces the nectar of immortality. So you can see that water has all these connotations, even spiritually, of like being like the substance of spirit. What we can consume that's like spiritual and enlightening and immortalizing, this is all metaphorical, is a watery type of elixir, you see? This not to be misunderstood like there's something you can eat and get enlightened. That's not true.
Yeah.
But speaking archetypally, water is used a lot to indicate spirituality. So
yeah, that's true.
That's how I see the relationship between water element and the Brahmin caste.
Okay. Well, Cancer, according to Brihaparashara, Cancer and Pisces are the Sattva signs that naturally aspire towards realization, knowledge, and goodness, which leads us then to the guna. So the guna for Cancer is Sattva.
Right.
So, and then Cancer has the motivation to create harmony and goodness, which is what Sattva means. It's more of a inspirational kind of thing.
Clarity, purity, balance, the harmony between extremes, the ability to hold the yin and the yang.
I hadn't thought of it that way before. That makes sense.
Because Rajas and Tamas are like yin and yang, basically. The extroversion and the introversion. And Sattva is like the motion that allows them to be balanced. That without Sattva, they can't even move. So it's like Sattva is sort of this center pole. So when you have good Sattvic quality of a person who's integrated, who has both aspects within themselves and is able to harmonize them.
I noticed too that in Ayurveda, they talk a lot about Sattvic foods.
Right.
So what are some of the Sattvic foods that we can eat during the Cancer season?
Well, that's a really good question, and it really depends on who you ask, because again, there's controversies along that. Now, there's traditionally, a Sattvic diet would be a diet that's pretty light, that's unburdening to the body, that is easy to digest. In other words, a diet that's pure, that's not adding too much of its own quality or leaving a residue or an impression on the body. It sustains the body, and the wastes are easily eliminated, so that the body is just left in a clear, pure, nourished state without feeling like you got all this food inside of you, you're tired and, you're toxic because you don't digest well because you eat heavy foods. That's not Sattvic. So a Sattvic diet inspires and allows that Sattvic quality to emerge. So it's also a balanced diet, which would depend on the person. What's Sattvic for you might not be Sattvic for another person, because everybody has a different balance of doshas, elements, gunas,
Okay.
So there's that. Now, I personally believe that, raw foods is the way to go when it comes to Sattvic diet, I think eating pure, organic, natural, wholesome foods is basically Sattvic.
Okay. And especially in the summertime.
Yeah, especially in summertime, that's the message of nature. Look at all the fruits and things that are growing,
I know. It's great.
Maybe that's a connection between summer season and Cancer is the water of life is in all the fruits. It's like...
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Another thing I've noticed too is that a lot of vegetables are sweet.
Yeah. And it's sweet taste that brings pitta down, which is what you want in the summertime. That's why nature gives you all this sweet, nourishing, watery, juicy stuff, because you need water because you're getting dried out, and you need the sweet taste to cool down.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so now we're to the night and day and night strong signs. And so there's day strong, meaning full of know-how, night strong, full of ideas. And Cancer, being a night strong sign, has more mental and physical energy at night. And so in night strong signs are energized by internal experiences, thought, emotion, contemplation. So that is basically what Cancer is. It is night strong and full of ideas, full of thought, emotion, and contemplation. It's more of a internalized experience. Now, as far as being front or back rising, the front rising signs are able to bring things to concrete realization fairly easily, whereas the back rising signs have a harder time, or it takes them longer to bring things to concrete realization. Mm-hmm. And Cancer is one of the back rising signs. So, but it takes some time to bring its ideas into realization. And Cancer in particular knows what it feels like experiencing in the moment, but it changes from day to day because it's ruled by the moon. So it doesn't have the long-term focus required to consistently make things happen here on Earth. So moon-ruled people as well. That's my biggest problem, I think, is the inability to be truly consistent. And that is because I'm just not that way.
Because you're phasing like a moon rather than a constant like a sun. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And, society and business is set up to be more based on the sun.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why people should just embrace their nature, and realize that there's many ways of being in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now did you have anything else you wanted to say along those lines about night strong or front rising or back rising or any of that?
I think you said it.
Okay, so now on to the feet of the sign. For Cancer, it is many-footed, and there's only two of them. That's Cancer and Scorpio are many-footed, and they're particularly interested in seventh house things, matters of the public, partnership, and discovery in partnership. And they're least interested in the first house matter of thinking and finding one's own path, which is quite interesting. And the many-footed signs find their strength in their tenacity, their ability to hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, and now for the color of Cancer, it is the color pink. And Brihaparsha, as I read earlier in the description, he's the one who said that the color for Cancer is pink. So again, if you get a gemstone prescription from a Vedic astrologer who has studied with Ernst Wilhelm, because he's the one who's done the extensive research and testing on gemstones to see which ones really actually work. Then if you have anything going on in the sign of Cancer that needs help, you'll be prescribed a gemstone with the color pink. Though there's more to it than that, like a lot more to it than that. There's also the type of gemstone, but the color corresponds to the sign, and the type of gemstone, the crystalline structure, corresponds to the planet. I just wanted to make that clear. Do you want to say anything about that?
Well, I just think it's really unique that Ernst was able to develop a system that correlated gemstones for signs as well as the planets, because typically you're only looking at gemstones for planets, but this is really nice because you can get a stone for your exact placement, Yeah. So I think it's really useful, and it builds upon information that's already given to us in the traditional text. The color is already there,
Sure.
I said in an earlier video that there is no discussion of gemstones in the traditional tech, which is true, but there is discussion of colors. So Ernst really ran with that, and I think it's really useful. It makes a lot of sense.
Very useful. And gemstone prescriptions is one of the unique things. Well, it's not entirely unique. I know some traditional Western astrologers who prescribe gemstones as well. But it works with the energies of the body.
That's
So
right.
anyway, that is the sign of Cancer, and I want to wish everybody a happy summer. And thank you again, Neeshee, for joining us. And if you like this, please like the video, hit subscribe, and anything you want to say about the sign of Cancer, if you have the sun, the moon, the ascendant, or you know somebody in Cancer and who has that sign prominent in their chart, and you have something else you want to add, please comment below. We'd love that. Thank you. Until next month, when we talk about the sign of Leo, goodbye.